We good, y'all.
Nice, we're good.
Welcome to another episode of the True Move Podcast. We just getting into a little conversation around how we are embodying our inner truth so that we can live more integrated and transformed lives. I'm with my boy Kevin. What's up, man? How you feeling?
What up? Pretty good.
Good. And we just got done with a little process around knowledge.
I mean, we were thinking about knowledge as a character, as a person, what sorts of personality traits, what values that, drove them as a person, and then ultimately sort of how that translates into movement and what sorts of gestures and poses and phrases that could lead to.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking a lot about confidence and cockiness and the layer and the edge of that transition, and how a lot of times when I feel like I'm in a knowledgeable space, I'm running towards whatever I'm expressing and talking about. I'm flowing, I'm doing my thing. And a lot of times when people are like, wait, hold up, like, what did you mean by that? Or I'm not as knowledgeable in this thing, please break it down. How I can feel as though like constricted and frustrated that you just stopped my flow. And how I do not want to, how do I not engage in that as much, but how do I continue to be in my flow and then invite you into my flow with your question, with your inquiry, blah, 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 blah. Meaning, how do I open up space? Another thing that's coming up for me is like the aspects of age and maturity, and how that can influence how we look at that confidence and cockiness. I know you were saying a lot in regards to the age. Do you remember what you were talking about?
It's like, I think, you talking about that sort of cockiness made me think of, knowledge as being approached. It can be a sort of double-edged sword where it might be approached differently when, from a perspective of youth with more sort of excitability, but also just like being quicker to act and react versus sort of knowledge from an older perspective with more maturity and experience, maybe a little more empathy to be able to step back and sort of take some more time, be a little more patient and forgiving in terms of when other people aren't on the same page, and how to communicate and navigate those gaps, right? And that was what I thought was interesting, is like they're two different directions that you could take the sort of embodiment, that sort of character.
Totally.
Right? Where it's like traditionally in media we think of knowledge as being sort of maybe a more wise, sage-like character, like Gandalf or like Dumbledore. But you could definitely also see representations that are sort of younger, more youthful, like a Steve Urkel or like Hermione. Those are the examples that you had brought up. And I think we kind of, I guess our interpretation maybe landed somewhere in the middle a little bit. Definitely some aspects of youthfulness and sort of more brash behavior.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like we really leaned more into the confident side today.
Yeah.
And because a lot of it was around, even as we were going into the confident side, we were also talking a lot about that moment that you don't feel confident, that you were confident in this knowledge, and then there's this challenge that comes upon you that you cannot figure out, or you haven't figured out as quickly. And up until that point, because you've been the knowledgeable one, because you've been the problem solver, there's a certain kind of expectation or hope that is put on you, and how that can create a pressure and anxiety. Maybe I know you didn't say anxiety, but that's what came up for me. With that. And so we didn't tap really into that from my perspective as much as like the feeling that we get when we do get to be the problem solver in the community, and what kind of power comes with that, what kind of affirmation comes with that, what kind of vulnerability comes with that, pressure comes with that. But yeah, it felt, I'm trying to think about what I really learned from that side of knowledge today in exploring. I mean, one was for sure the benefit and the excitement that comes with learning new skills. You brought up an awesome thing. I don't totally remember the specific words you used, but it was like
the types of knowledge.
Types of knowledge with the skill versus the
right.
knowing.
It was like the proposition, or this is what Wikipedia said, but it was like the propositional knowledge as being sort of more of the traditional rote study, learning from a book type of knowledge, versus sort of more experiential knowledge of, learning in the moment, from your experience of doing something or engaging with something, right? And then the third one being, knowledge of skills, of specific learned movements and, more practical skills that are acquired through practice and also experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's, in regards to like the acquisition and the skill vibe, I was most definitely finding a lot of excitement with the different perspectives that you were giving, and the different ways you were interpreting prompts and et cetera, where I was like, oh snap, like I haven't done this in a long time or never, or like whatever. But I'm just like, the whole time I like checked myself in the mirror, I'm like, what? And it's a beautiful experience to feel, because knowledge can be that such wealth and rejuvenation in that way. So it was really cool to be reminded about that. And it reminds me about, because we did a little bit of the juggling as well, it reminds me of my time in Turkey, and I was working with circus heroes, and that's where I learned to juggle, and to just see so many people who couldn't speak the same verbal language have community and communication through skill sharing. Right. Was a really liberating experience to be like, oh snap, we don't have to make community just in verbal conversation. Skills sharing and acquisition knowledge is literally a way to communicate in a global way. So that also got brought up to me again. So I'm curious as to what you felt like you learned. What did knowledge, this character, reveal to you today?
I guess for me, it was more sort of recognizing the dimensionality of it. Like, it really did start to come to life as a person almost, to think of sort of, you mentioned, like, you had called it sort of the light self and the shadow self, but it's sort of like, highlighting, we talked about, when you're at your highs, your confidence, when you're feeling confident, and then your lows when you're feeling doubt and anxiety, and how that sort of manifests itself within, this archetype that we created, and the sort of body language that, that takes the form of. And actually, when you mentioned, I think that we leaned more on the confidence side, but actually, a lot of the stuff that we did with, sort of manipulating the hands and the head, like, it actually covered a pretty wide range of expressions and emotion. Some of it started to feel sort of a little tortured sometimes too, So I think it kind of covered a pretty broad range of emotion and personality for the character. So it felt really good. And yeah, it was cool to see that sort of exploration of character connected to movement, because for myself, I've never done something this sort of focused and in-depth. And to see that connection of like, oh, what I would normally do labbing, you know, just like trying out different movements, but connecting that now to sort of this sort of storytelling aspect was really cool, and just felt, I don't know, felt really productive.
Yeah. We got through a lot. We got through a whole lot. No, I appreciate you saying the aspect of the different dimensions, and even the confidence also having multiple dimensions and opening itself to so many different emotions. Because something that you brought up during our time together, and that recame to just right now, is like how cool dance is in a way that this can be so much.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about, like if we're more like erect and marchy versus like bouncy, how that takes us from who we really feel like knowledge is to like this totally different person. We're like, we feel like we're throwing up gang signs. It's like, no, wait, that's not it. And so, but that only switched because of one other element. But the position was the same. So I think the labbing and finding that specificity and that nuance is really dope for me, because it also helps me to be reminded of the nuance kind of surgical work that it is to understand the different aspects of my inner world as well. Like we were talking about the difference between and similarities between knowledge versus insight. And like in so many ways they're so similar. But they're also very distinct. And like, how do we embark on a journey to understand the overlap and the individuality within that? So that was super important for me to be reminded about how to be surgical and be specific, and how those specificities really can shift the impact of the expression. All right, y'all, we are clearly out of time. We're getting kicked out, and we are over our rehearsal time. So thanks for joining us. It's been good getting in the body, getting in the mind, getting in the spirit with y'all. I hope you take this and explore for yourself. What is knowledge to you? How do you engage with feeling your grabbing of knowledge? How do you feel about the times where you feel more knowledgeable than someone else? How does it feel when you feel like you're not the most knowledgeable in the room, that you're actually the least knowledgeable in the room? And just exploring through your imagination these memories and these fictional experiences so that you can learn more about your holistic humanity. Anyway, we out. Stay blessed. Talk to you soon. Peace.